As a company, they're expected to win this if they want to have a good opportunity of taking this entire fight.
I mean, the winner of this is in the upper bracket final. You know, the winner of this separates themselves from the grand final by a game. And that is the narrow divide they have to play with here. When Raza Company might find themselves struggling, is going to, obviously, as we said before, against a team that knows them, against a team that's powerful from the region. But the worry is once the run that they've had starts to fall away. I mean, how many teams did we see drop and drop again yesterday? They're still guaranteed a live stage. They're still guaranteed a fight. This will not eliminate them. The same can be said about Furia, and it's also the same sort of thing about Furia, because we come into this with the expectation of we have no expectations. How many big teams were eliminated yesterday? How many fan favorites were already packing their bags?
No, that's it for sure. It's definitely not been a kind event for tournament favorites, for fan favorites as well in that matter. Furia might be one of the very last standing that maybe is able to carry that accolade, considering the fact that they are the defending champions, of course. Valkyrie, the last to be removed. Mira, Blackbeard, and Montaigne. We see a very heavy emphasis on the shields to be removed from this game. As we head towards border, this first map, it could turn out to be explosive, powerful, right away getting to the point. And that could be a decisive factor. Now, they've actually played border historically. It was in the EWC close qualifiers. Back then, it was a 5-7 in favor of Furia. But this is kind of like the trend that we see between these two teams as well. It is either a very close game going all the way to 12 rounds or to 7-1 or 7-0 blowout. There has been no in-between for whenever these two teams face each other. So, well, you just gotta hope that there's gonna be a very decent game coming out from Raza Company here, as they are looking to change fate.
So it begins, and so as our statistics swing and dance and quickly change their way around, Furia, they are currently statistically the best defensive team. However, because of how good they've been throughout this tournament, they've played a lot less maps than a lot of other teams. For example, on their 10 maps with a 70% defensive win, FaZe Clan are second. They've played 18 maps total, and they're on 64. It shows how the data can sort of get itself annulled and changed around just based on the 2-0 series. Obviously, Furia being able to 2-0 themselves here across the top, being one of the only first-place teams that had that confident game. BDS, they were a first-place team. They got them through, but it was a 2-1. The other two dropped down. The other two, well, we saw what happened. So, this opening half for Raza, who are also a good defensive team, but they've sort of struggled. Their statistic has became a little bit more diluted over the previous series, regardless of the series wins, because of how long and how deep they seem to go. They're trying to find that early feed. It's KZ, who is taking the first bit of damage, but Herds is trying to step himself into an opening engagement, cut off at the pass of the open door.
Live is one of those players that really has been important in the last couple of series for the side of Raza Company. The amount of clutches he's been able to put on the board are just incredible. Whether it is like a 1vx or a 2vx, he's always been part of it. Anyway, Execute is starting to come through as Flash Tree does find nades. Suddenly they're finding themselves in the middle of the site. However, some of these FNATs are slowing them down, buying some time for KZ to lean back into the fight and finding a double kill to equalize the man count.
Well, this is it, fighting their way back and forth. Philippox and JV92, suddenly all that's left, and another E1D will make things a bit awkward, but what a catch! You know a player's going to be in that position, and they are just absolutely ran out of town. Leaving Philippox alone, and there's still a lot of utility here. Just in the pockets of Pasetto to try and get this plant. We hear the smoke canister go, a crossfire, and a strong opening round from Raza.
Live finding 3 kills down there from below. One of the roamers, one with verticality, and the other one as he's holding the one way back into sight. Strong round from Raza indeed, and Furia tried to fight back into it, but every single time they took a gunfight, they just found themselves instantly picked up, instantly shut down. With the exception of that single 2K that came through.
We talk about statistics as well, bleeding away. The other fun one the Furia has at the minute is entries. Statistically, they're the best team at getting that opening kill. 62% go into their favor compared to 49% of Raza. And, you know, a flip of the coin on whether you win or lose is still pretty good, especially this deep into the tournament. But if that is a game that they start to take away, as I said, the statistics will get diluted. The further Furia play, the deeper they go, and we get our numbers a little bit more actualized to how they react. Raza, strong start here on Furia's map as well, obviously. So Raza opted to go on their attack. It is border. It does make sense.
Yeah. I'm talking about the entry statistic, of course, the conversion quite important there as well. Both these teams actually relatively similar, only by like a small percentile, not having the same percentage. I believe it was 73, 74%, no, 72.9, 72.7. So both these teams in general will find a round if they find the entry. So is that going to be the name of the game that we find here on Border? As a quick clutch sending in, I mean, it's just intel denial that we're seeing to come through, but the amount of aggression that we're seeing every single time a player from Furia is finding himself outside early on, KZ looking to go and make a bit of a push happen, but they're aware of it on the side of Razah Company. They're not giving him any of the fights that he might be wanting to take, and they have full knowledge on him because there's a drone. And you see Live now rotating up. He's already been huge here before. Finds the very first kill, but a frost mat will secure him right afterwards. They need to be quick on the confirm because he picked himself up again.
That's it, the swing round, and it's traded back and forth. A very good double down here from KZ. Gets himself not 3. They stem the bleeding, and both teams get a second to breathe. But with Border, you never know when that's going to be instantly ripped away from you there. Still trying to steady on some control here of the verticality, but again, the cost of what's been lost. Bisetto threw himself in, but he was within the sort of brawling grounds of the fearful mind that it is from Fenrir. So his vision was not clouded towards killing that player. JV92 wants to try and get himself in. They have the 3 versus 2. Philippox and Nade now. All that's left. They have some keepers, a C4 they can try and chance up when they get this vertical control. There's a minute 20, but at this point it's just trying to isolate east stairs, the control here of office as well. I'm assuming they're playing this position deep because the hatch is open, but how long is his army going to hang around before they get themselves lifted out? They're buying time. They don't want to get surrounded here.
This is the issue. There's too much time for the attack.
There it is.
All those keepers are just going to be taken down. They've now flushed him back towards the side, so verticality should be all in reach. But Nade, with the Nitro cells, not going to find anything for his efforts, but they do know he's around now. Ooh. And Bisetto will be found as a kick cooldown as well.
Yeah, kick goes down. Bisetto's playing time. There's a lot here for SDK and Flash3 to try and get themselves loaded up together. And Nade is just hanging around and break. Again, he's playing this pressure. They have to say this is a 2 versus 1 engagement. They should be able to confirm the trade whatever happens, but if they can get it more direct, then that'll be perfect for them. Now 30 seconds, and look at this position. They're well aware of it. They've recollected the kit. It's a massive fight to win out Philippox, but they're going to plant. Flash3 realizes he can try and get this secured, and Philippox opts to try and take the fight flat as well. He's getting himself the brawl, and Philippox clutches it out here. And we are trading rounds immediately.
What we expect on Border, though, it is a very thin map. A gunfight just continuously takes place. It doesn't matter where you are, or you're already in danger of what could be next. You see some quick talks going on. I mean, Furia, they want this to be a clean game. They just want to go up to that upper bracket final, then take care of that one as soon as they reach the stadium, and then just wait for their opponent to decide whether or not they're going to prolong their championship. Live out here, a beautiful first kill, but the frost mat is not something they were aware of. Otherwise, he would have been able to go even bigger, potentially finding 2. And that one piece of utility just stemmed the bleeding instantly for Furia.
High energy this early on, and it's everything you kind of wanted. As I said at the start of this, that has been how Raza have driven themselves through, right? That is how they've made their sort of mark, and it's the fun split between these two teams of how they approached Border, time each that they've played it. Obviously a very long game for Razah, who found themselves pushed toward the brink. A 7-3, I believe, for Furia in their first upper bracket game that was a lot more controlled, but both of them had above 80% of a conversion rate on their opening kill. Both of them had a very driven statistic off of the back of that as well. They're sort of looking at high 80% on any statistic, regardless of if it comes from a single game, just shows how much control. The fact that Raza had that in a game that went pretty much the entire distance, probably highlights a little bit more how important it is for them to get it secured.
And trying to bait out some of these players. Again, the map is paper thin, and you know you want to go for a take, but it doesn't matter where you go, and you'll just find angles long and wide. Created, Basetto. No, someone is going to be in these stairs. And get rid of that player, Felipox. It's a smoke. It will be a huge pick in terms of denial. STK taking quite a lot of damage. I'm not quite sure from where that happened. There's a nitro cell that flew out. Must be. There's already one piece of utility gone, but there's almost no one on the actual side itself. It's just JV92 that's defending it.
It's a very dangerous position Felipox is playing in right now, but that is how you've got to approach Border. Try and not let them in the building for as long as possible. Be just a counter everywhere, and, well, there's an Azami that might not know just how well they're being watched, and, ooh, a big bit of damage done towards Herds. They obviously went with the DMR underneath. It only takes a couple of hits to make a connection. Through the soft, you get a little bit more of a burster to work with, but KZ gets the opener there on towards Flashry. Wants to find a second, and he takes a lot worse from it. Felipox in the same breath, so it was almost leveled out. At this point, they just need to get out of there.
And this is just Border, right? Like, they're taking the fights outside almost the entire time. But look at the HP on Furia. 3 of them are about, like, 1 or 2 shots away. But on the other side, Raza, 2 of them quite low as well. That's just a continuous brawl you have.
A minute on. Perez driving his way underneath the site itself. They still have the chance at getting a call to read that the hatches are closed. I mean, that's not going to be a quick sort of rotate round. Of the chance at pulling a player out unexpected, and the hold top still hasn't really been moved away. Think about where these players started. They finally find the end of Felipox, who's at the bottom of the stairs up towards the top, and they can get themselves in the building. East stairs falls under tentative control here, but KZ, with that Kiva, has a bit more safety. Hux moves and finds a new dangerous location. If it's gone uncontested and unknown, it can be pretty deadly. There's one. Can he swing onto the second? He knows that there's this pressure behind him, and he knows Herds has the support. There's a hop in. The Goo Mines will give the game away, so Basetto tucks to try and pull it out, but 15 seconds. Does he even really have the time here? KZ gets caught. Goes down. There's another. As Perez drives on towards Fountain, they can see the site. They can see a player shutting it back and forth. The 1 versus 1. Surely they go for the kill. The C4 is the connection. JV92.
And this is the amount of time that's being wasted because the aggression that Furia are showing, constantly throwing themselves at these windows, using the keeper barriers to reinforce their own positions as well, making it not as straightforward for them to find those kills. And Raza, as soon as they start getting underway, right, they do manage to find those kills. They do manage to get those trades as they push towards the sides. It's just that initial part here in that round is what went wrong. They didn't quite have the initial push, the entry that they could otherwise work with.
They re-win the site that they lost before. Means that they've technically got 2 in a row at this. But I mean, how close are these rounds coming to? Their first win was a 1 versus 2, technically. Post-plant clutch brought itself in. The one there was a difference of a C4 being the connection, turning into a 1 versus 1. They had the utility and they played it brilliantly. Putting it on the wall means that you could confirm it either way, but still, narrow lines here. Raza, they're making them fight for every step, every inch of ground. They did well to sort of find that opportunity. How long it took them to cook a route on towards the map itself internally, and then suddenly things go a bit away, so they drive, they push forward, they go into office, they go into Fountain, they make sure that, fine, this is happening here, we will start to make things happen elsewhere.
The game that Furia is playing, though, is one where you need to be super confident in your own gun skill, and that is a Solace ready to go for a bit of a fight. KZ's not finding it, though. He was a bit too early, and that means that STK is going to just go on that rappel, wait patiently. Maybe there's going to be a run out on one side or the other. But not for now. Basetto bringing out the Blitz as well. They're trying to bring some extra pace out here as Nade will find the very first kill. But the Blitz is already pushing through, and Herds, being on that Oryx, might be the best operator to try and challenge it.
Oh, he doesn't even know which way to look or stand at this point. Basetto, he's not going to entirely throw himself in here. Obviously, they've lost the Glads, and the lineup with the utility combination is a bit of a big cost here, but Perez takes the head off of Herds. Once again, trading out those early kills, trading out those early bodies. Yeah, there was a bit of time between it, but how Raza refused to give up the ground they were fighting for. It's like trench warfare. And as KZ underneath the Solace gets a bit of damage, expects a rebuttal, a response, but here they're still a bit focused on the fight that they'd started before. There's a bit of a rotate over the top of the building onto Sandwich Window, gifted. JV92 taken away by SDK, and great use of utility and comms there as the Furia players rotate their way back down towards the ground floor.
3-3, still that 1 minute 20 left on the clock. It seems like it is plenty of time for the attackers to do something with it. However, KZ is starting to move up. He's using the Solace scanner to make sure there's no drone currently watching him. So you might be able to retake that top floor and strike just in time before the execute comes through. The minute still counting down. He actually decided to go back and actually play it horizontal.
What can they find other than a camera that reveals that we know that you know? Nade does go down to a nade. And there, the smoke canister right on where they're trying to plant. They've got to try and shuffle their way out. 40 seconds and Perez takes the head off of Philippe Box, who wanted a second. KZ, all that's left. They might not know about Nade. They might not know that he's dropped down and... oh, he's waiting, timing it, hoping that he can get an angle, but there's the cover, there's the fight. It's so narrow. They come off the plant. They know they should just go for the kill, and they get it. 2 apiece.
He tried to find the elevation to cancel that plant, but he just couldn't find it at the right time. Heard the drop, panicked a little bit, and then found himself stuck in a 1v2 fight as both put his attention towards him. And 2-2 on the board. I mean, again, we expect this to go closely. It was the last time these two teams met. Some beautiful sharp shots to come through as well, though.
2 apiece. And it's sort of everything that you wanted. As I said, you know, amazing series, amazing runs from these teams. And even though one of them, you know, obviously had one of the best years of Siege anyone's ever had, even though one of them sort of capitalized that at the point at the last SI, Furia drifted away a little bit throughout this year. That they struggled to sort of get the same thing, and you're comparing them to their best. Reigning champions, if they don't start continually winning after winning everything or putting in a fight on the final stage, you're like, what's happening?
At that point, it's like, okay, well,
what's going on?
Dynasty's over in that case.
Yeah. But at the same time, you know, they still came in, they were 12th in the global rankings. They were able to get international presence. But you're comparing them against the metric that they themselves set the year before. At the same time, Razah, you know, hadn't been on live stages for a long time. As we said at the start of this, first SI, but all of them outside of the coach GDN. And yet, both these teams' performances at this at Invitational has been phenomenal. The swing out there, KZ, it's the opener, and it's a chance at a follow-through fight next. But with the Iana gone, with Perez off the board, you lose some utilities, but you also lose your star sort of entry player.
Yeah, Perez has been absolutely crucial throughout this tournament so far for the side of Razah Company. He's been able to put basically most kills on the board, create an opening in more rounds than not. He's live finding a bit of information here to just trying to find a bit of a trade. JV92 has gone quite low in the meantime, but it's Hertz that is holding on for dear life. KZ goes and finds live as he walks into the balcony, and now, well, Lastry, it's up to you to try and break this open as he's putting up the pressure. The Claymore will stop him from running out unless he gets shot. The KZ has just gone unchecked, finds himself a 4th kill as well. And now there's only one left to find for the ace.
I mean, all from the same position as well. Herds means the ace isn't locked out, but, you know, currently, at the start of this series, the #1 rated player in this tournament, KZ. And he's going to see if he can try and put some distance. Do you know who the #2 and the #3 are? Philippe Box and JV92. So Furia are looking pretty good on those stats.
I wonder if they're going to try and break their own record for the total amount of event kills.
What was the number last time?
It's somewhere in the 400, I think.
Yeah,
it was 300.
Well, they've got quite a distance to go They've played too well. But I
Imagine
mean,
playing too well to
what was
try
it in
and
the
go
best
for your
of 5?
record.
They got like 50-ish.
Yeah, I'm opening it now.
54 off the top of my head. So you know, they have a few more series like that. Maybe they're
So they got 336.
okay.
in
So they only need another 231.
Yeah, you know, maybe they've played too well indeed. Maybe they should have just tried and gone for the lower bracket.
As I said, the sort of maps selection they had last year was a lower bracket run from before this point as well. They've outperformed themselves from previous tournaments. This is sort of highlighting at the start of the round. Both these teams have elevated their game coming into this bigger stage, which is everything you want from any team, really. The sort of top player we're talking about in Perez, he's 14th rated, but there's a fair few names above him that have been eliminated from the tournament at this point, so sure he's happy being where he is right now.
I mean, they're still in the tournament. That's most important. It doesn't matter where you end up in the overall rankings. What matters is your eventual placement in that tournament.
There's a fair few names above him that he eliminated himself.
You know, it kind of means you're taking their dog tags, right? Like, you're taking over their place in that point. But either way, 30 seconds have passed. There's a talent shield, there is a Deimos, there is a glass. This can only be a quick planned attempt inside of the archives here.
Well, that's it. And you know the Os is going to make the play here. It's just making sure that Furia is aware. You'll hear the first C4. It'll destroy nothing yet. It's ripped and maybe just sort of awareness and put background. There it is. And, you know, you've got to guarantee you get at least the first destruction on the Osa shield. Well, you're sort of playing this as an idea of, okay, well, maybe we'll get the first, then we'll move the second and go for the plant. Bait utility is if it's a bank sort of hold on the bottom, but with the Deimos underneath with the vertical control. With Perez calling out the positions, what they're going to hope to do is just absolutely explode in towards sandwich window, in towards the armory site and blind them out. They've moved away. There's the C4 onto SDK, caught the player as well. The kit's cold, so now they're going to try and pick it up and make that motion. They're in, they're out. JV92 has the cover onto Flashery, the Glaz able to find their head in response, but that is a lot of thrown utility and not the result they're after. They need to try and find one more kill here, and they don't get it. The cover's good from Fountain and Felipox. Just said, you know, it was a sort of long prophesized take there. They were outside and angling and positioning. It gave Time Fury a chance to rotate their way around slightly deeper, slightly further away from the windows across the two sites, and well, you come in, we knock you right back out. A minute, and Besetto gone, leaving just the Deimos who was the man underneath.
This position where Felipox is playing now, KZ was playing their last round. It is such a trouble point for the side of Raza Company. They keep losing too many players to that position in general. And the kit wasn't actually on SDK, it was on Flash. He was going in sandwich window. Like, I think they tried to go for a bit of a bait and switch, maybe see, like, hey, we're going to do an archives plan, but actually, we're going to see if we can get it in on the opposite side of the map. He's being challenged now. KZ is trying to go for a bit of an ego swing. He heard that drop, that's for sure. Definitely will hear the AK firing. He's just doing a bit of a jiggle swing. Gets a bit of damage done to Perez, but, oh, who's going to win this one? That's going to be the big question. It's KZ.
Well, we said they were two players to watch, and they wanted to give you a little bit of a show at the end of that round. Again, you know, it was a great response from Furia. The reason that those takes can sort of work is if teams aren't prepared for them, both with utility and both with awareness.
Yep.
Furia kind of had both there. The fact they got the C4 opening on towards Osa, it clears away that sort of worry. It's a very noisy gadget to move. She's a very noisy operator. You know the play as well at that point. And yeah, the kit might not be there, but there's still a kill to confirm in that position.
It is.
And then from then on, you will add the other piece of the puzzle. You'll go, okay, well, Office isn't currently under pressure. We know that East isn't currently under pressure. They haven't done anything in CC, so it's going to be Windows, right? By status of elimination, let's put our back towards CC. Let's put our back towards these locations we still have and just shoot in. And very well played there from Furia.
Of course, Candelas and the smokes and the Thatcher EMPs all coming in from the window gave away that the play was coming in from the direction there as well. But now they're finding themselves on the attack, and, you know, they found themselves with 4 rounds on that very first half. I think that's considered pretty decent on your defense. And now they can try and finish this one off with a nice attacking spree. Again, last time rather, these two teams met on side this map. It was a 7-5 favor of Furia. So Furia is looking to maybe see if they can better that score.
Nothing from it.
No.
a frustrated punch at a wall, which is just a fat finger. You as he goes to reinforce it. Take away that angle towards the bottom of these stairs, make them have to utilize some utility to get it open. They have the cost and the usage of it, but that's about it now. Can they try and isolate Basetto? Diella, who has grown in preference throughout this event, the ability to just sort of get yourself, especially on border, aggressively back in. STK suffered quite a lot, but the doc, he'll get himself back up, and there's Basetto buying themselves some time. This sort of find a fight, run away, and leave gadgetry has been a big part of Razako's play, and well, there's just nowhere to go here. They're trying to get the trade out. SDK's looking for the engagement. He's being droned out. They know fully where he is, and they just shut him down. That's 2 quick kills here for Furia.
KZ absolutely just ripping them apart out there. Jumped in, was completely stunned, still finds that kill. And now they've opened up a big portion of the map. There's still a bit of pressure down inside of Break. They will have to deal with Perez at some point. However, the rest of the map is starting to look a bit weak. Office only has a player inside of Fountain. They've just located Perez as well. Herds, he's droning that one out. And look at that KZ. He's ready to go for yet another kill. He's actually quickly going to check his own throne before he takes that fight. Grenade right underneath. It's going to force Perez off deeper into the side of CCTV. Gives them a bit of a better opportunity to go for this push.
Being given an engagement, one of the biggest sort of complaints about Razako's play early on in groups was that they would hand fight to their opponents, even if they're on the up and up or on the below. And you've got to take risks, sure, but the risks they were taking sometimes weren't as well managed. They've definitely improved on that. As Perez tears off Herds. They've made sure that the positions they have more to offer them. And there's 2 right back in for Leapbox caught as well, and Patience has netted huge rewards here. Furia got 2. Raza, I'm going to say they relaxed, but they were resilient. They made sure that they couldn't get anything else. The positional play here. And now the support. They've gone under. They've got the kid elsewhere. They're going for the 2 versus 1 in this situation. Shows the growth of this roster throughout this tournament.
Well played there by the side of Raza Company, and Furia, well, they had a great entry. They managed to find both those kills on the hallway, on these stairs, basically the balcony out there. They knew where Perez was. They realized, okay, Perez is going to be a threat. We need to take him down. They even put drones in place, but were unaware of the fact that he actually jumped on top of that desk. If they would have known, they could have actually used the window on CCTV to try and put pressure down, try and relocate him, try and make sure that you force them into each other's gunfights. But none of that happened, and then suddenly you see Raza Company just finding kill after kill after kill and bringing back that 3v5 into a round win with no further casualties. It's a huge round coming down there from Raza Company. One that wasn't desperately necessary as well, considering the first half kind of just completely ran away from them. Now they need to continue that.
Well, we rotate our way around towards Vents, which actually, you know, it's a 57% preference across this whole tournament. Defense, the fact that it could be taken out in the first half by Raza pretty well, pretty sort of convincingly there. It turned into a 3 versus 1. They were forced and bullied off the site. I'm curious to see what their hold will translate that to, and if there could be a bit more opportunity. Obviously, we're playing a border with 2 shield bans. Shield bans have been so prevalent throughout this tournament, so consistent as well, and you know, there are teams that they'll build their takes, they'll build their structure around it, get themselves in the steal on their back. Here, be a steady approach. I mean, really desperately wants the fight here, SDK. Oh, live even.
KZ, of course, he's looking to find those opening engagements. I mean, they've been doing very well so far in this game. 14 kills on the map already. He's looking to definitely try and put some extra numbers on the board. That Bravo drone will be taken down. Live instantly starting to go for a bit of a rotate. You gotta see more of that bit of team play to come through. And JV92 is trying to bring that. He's going for some tracks with the Deimos. Didn't know exactly what Basetto was. Cancelled it again right afterwards. Realized that he was going to be out of reach. So, need to find the other player. The one that is actually remote and alone. And they've just found one, Perez. Inside of CCTV. They have a target they can work with here. And you see Herd slowly starting to creep in. You see JV92 going to the break room door as well. He's on top of that desk, which is proven to be difficult to deal with. As soon as Perez has been spotted, he's falling back to the fountain, reinforcing himself off his life, takes the first bite and takes KZ.
Well, there is the man who was so much enjoying the violence, knocked to a side, and then you sort of look at the kills across the rest of Furia, and nobody else has been able to fill a spot that has truly been his driving seat, and yeah, it sort of balances things out a lot here. Sure, there is still Live that's ahead on the 8 versus 5, gets himself in, but at this point you're sort of looking towards Herds, looking towards JV92, and as I say it, one goes down and one gets pretty bloodied in a big exchange here. Flastry sitting, waiting. Philippux does find Perez, who, well, once again, is shut out, and they're able to get themselves JV92 back up, so it is another 4 versus 4, but 50 seconds, and they're still not in the building.
Last year had a really great spot, but he's fallen back. It took a bit too long before people started to push through, so instead deciding to play this horizontal now. They've given up that top floor, rightfully so. 40 seconds as mentioned, so there isn't a lot of time. They still need to go down, and they need to do all that prep work. And you start looking about the verticality, not much there.
No, there really isn't. And with 25 seconds, it's going to turn into a little bit of a mad dash. Then you look across the pockets. And yeah, there's nothing to directly throw and get rid of things. The Goo Mine, the C4, all used, all utilized. But if it turns into just a swing fight, it's going to be very tricky to get this locked in. You can see the positions. You know, one of them not too far away on the swing from the detention jail side. Nade with the hop out. JV92 does get Live. Philippux goes down. They're swinging and just trying to find the fight.
No,
he's got to pull the Goo Mine out. Can he plant? No!
It was 2!
I mean, not enough time as demonstrated. We are tied up 4 apiece.
Gumine saved them there on that window, because otherwise he would have been able to get that plan down. They've just found themselves 3 kills in that eventual scuffle. And then that Gumine really messed him up. A great opening from Life, by the way. And in that very first, actually was a 2-on-2 still left on the board, but that Gumine really made sure that that plan could go through. It's also the only thing I got from the Portuguese. Something Gumine.
Something Gumine.
Oh, well. Tied up score, and Bathroom is going to be next. Raza just continuing their rotation for now. Looking to break their streak against Furia as well this year. As mentioned before, they've not won a single map out of the 7 they've played against them over the last 365 days.
We played with a similar statistic in a similar sort of inter-region matchup yesterday. How did that one go?
Yeah, that one actually still went to the way of the team that had all the maps.
That had the 7-0, yeah.
However, they did win a map. So, who knows, maybe a map win is on the cards here for the side of Razah Company. And if they do take this on, hey, look at that. That is your opponent's map pick. And then suddenly you go into a map you feel very comfortable on, having the opportunity to knock down the current reigning world champions into the lower bracket. They're going quick here, by the way. They're eyeing up the push. They're ready to go. The shield as well, ready to bash. The E1Ds are going to be calling the start of this push.
Well, they're in and they're out immediately. C4 in the cover of the man who could see everything that was happening, and well, it spiraled as the rush did once upon a time for a different team. No, it wasn't really a rush. This has just crumbled on landing. They don't even get the consolation at the top of East, leaving JV92 in an ace or nothing situation. Now he's got a player in Armory that's going to get the kill anyway. A flawless first. And Raza Co, since the beginning of this map, pull themselves into the lead.
Yeah, finding themselves ahead of Furia right now. That rush, I mean, they were willing to go for it. It just wasn't quick enough, and they've read through it. And thus a tactical timeout now to be called by the side of Furia. They realize that something needs to change if they want to take their own map home, because, well, if we get 2 more of these kind of rounds, hey, look at that, map's over. And Razah Company find themselves 1-0 up over the current reigning champions.
Then where are you heading? A map that is Razah's that we haven't seen this tournament from Furia. And who tried to play like that yesterday? Well, that was G2. They also brought out a map that they hadn't played in a bit, on towards their second map, and because they're already 1 map down, they just could not get it over the line against OXG, another sort of upstart versus a, stage frequenter.
I I mean, like, to be fair to the side of Furia, though, it's not like they didn't want to play Bank. It's been left up to be the decider in 3 of their games. They just didn't need it because they got 2-0'd by CAG, which is a bit of a smat on the actual record there. But they 2-0 Rebellion, 2-0 FaZe themselves as well. So, with that said, I think they do have a game there. But Razah has already shown it to us.
Raza, after the team talk, after the conversation, see if they can try and push themselves on towards map point, get themselves off to the strongest possible start here on Furia's side. Obviously, you know, since we've gotten to the second half, it's just been defense after defense after defense, getting better and better and better. And you don't want to sort of highlight the players, but you look across, again, the kill spread, and KZ, yeah, he's +7, but he's the only one in the positive side of what is a very kill-heavy game. He's been, you know, +2 on the entry, and you've got Live competing with them. Yep. And then if you start to stack up the rest of the rosters, it's just Razah ahead of the pace, ahead of the pack.
Yeah, for sure. Razah Company is just more present in terms of this game with the fight. SDK. Where did that come from? Was it below? No, it's the window from the balcony.
So far away.
That is a very far shot. Finds himself on 2 HP for the remainder of this round. That was almost an entry to come through. But indeed, as you mentioned, KZ. Oh, look at that. It is actually KZ that has taken the fight. He's been the only one to show up, and he's also been the one that basically has been first in the building every single time. The border is that kill-heavy map. You need to be there. And SDK snipes him back with the 9x19 against that DMR.
Ooh.
There's like 60 meters on this map.
Oof.
Right there, that's where he was.
Well, not where he is anymore. SDK, bit of revenge, a bit of a bleed back through. And again, you talk about the importance of KZ for keeping them competitive. Again, you put out that sort of call for Furia to start stepping in a bit more across it. SDK getting a little bit of daylight robbery here on that opening engagement, surviving the trap and then being able to punish the player that set it. At this point, Furia looking less and less likely they can keep themselves off of map point, off of potentially going their way into OT. Said before, it was pretty clean 2-0 earlier on. They've had a pretty decent run, pretty clean tournament in total. But here, Razah, they just have their number.
Razah definitely indeed are a big threat right now to the side of Furia. The pressure they're trying to put in is coming in to the side of Office. The incendiary bolt is slowly pushing Basetto out. However, it doesn't spread far enough. With the keeper barrier given to his teammates, he can still play on that position, still be a nuisance for this push as all remaining Furia players are lining up to push through Office as Basetto goes aggressive.
All caught out though. Felipox gets the cross and gets himself in, and there's Nade finding another. Now they've been able to have man advantage before, and they've slipped away as it did on their opening attack. So with 30 seconds, can they try and find a formula? No. There is another body gone. Perez steps his way in and then rotates right back out. An explosion doesn't quite rock the player, but JV92 on one and live with the shotgun. Round the corner, gets one, gets traded. 2 versus nobody, and finally Furia find an end to the pain. Tie us right back up.
That's what they needed, a team performance to go through down there, because KZ's been doing all the heavy lifting. He's been taken out early here after SDK decided to basically show how gutsy he can be. He's like, you take me down to 1 HP, well, 1 HP and a dream, I'm going to snipe you from 60 meters. And that forced the rest of the team to make a team effort to make that round go through, to stop them from going to map point. Everybody pulling their weight right there, finding a kill if necessary, and securing the round as a result. We go back towards the workshop. They initially started off well, but kind of ran out of time, and that has been the issue. They wanted to go for the plant. They had a 2-on-2 situation, but the goo mine stacked on that window was the reason why they couldn't. And then you start thinking back, the reason why that goo mine was there is because they didn't have enough time to clear everything. So they need to be a bit quicker on their pace right here, and that probably will start with them putting that pressure onto that top floor rather than taking these fights on a horizontal level initially.
Now, as we sort of talked about before, it was a pretty much entire lower bracket run. In fact, it was for W7M at the time. Now, obviously, Furia to make their way through to get the hammer eventually. But that final game against FaZe, funnily enough, the core of the best of 5 are the 3 maps that we're seeing today. Bank, Skyscraper, Border, in that order back then. And Border, they won 7-4. They're actually a bit sharper on their attack at this point. So they have that capabilities, but obviously getting it as a sort of failure to launch and land because, well, Skyscraper, they lost in that series against FaZe all that time ago. Maybe don't want to end up there. There's a quick spray around the rotate. He's blinded out. He can't quite get the confirmation, but they get the territory for Leapox. The Blitz shuffling and sort of shuddering his way. He does get knocked and then gets dropped. SDK again, but 2 quick responses. Flastery and Perez, and now they find Live as well. A 4 versus 2 becomes a 3 as SDK doing his best to hold on. A risky play, but one that's paid off there. And, you know, SDK throughout this tournament has just stepped up and up and up and really come to light here. There's Herds trying to take the engagement with the Solace. SDK wants it just as much. A minute 40. If they didn't have enough time last time, they are swimming in it now.
Basically, as soon as Phase 2 started, you just mentioned that SDK really stepping up, and him being alive right now means that it's a big threat for the side of Furia. E1D pops KZ's on the hunt. He's trying to find something in return. There's a player coming in from the side of Customs. Is he aware? Yes, he is. Finds the kill beautifully onto Basetto. Now SDK, the last man standing in a 1v3. They think they have site control, but they have no clue how close SDK is. He finds one, not the second though, as Hurt shuts him down.
A conversation after the Flawless has led to 2 rounds in a row here for Furia, and they had opportunities to have already locked this map out, but doesn't mean Razah are locked out themselves. They're going to have their time to talk here and just sort of get themselves back to the mindset they were at, because they were building. They were getting better and better and better, and you know, as I said, sort of the pullback from losing the opening 2 entries and winning the round towards the late play, towards the Flawless.
Yeah.
Just going to see if they can try and flip that graph around again.
It's been quite funny because we were talking about the conversion rate that both these teams have, like overall in the tournaments, in like 73% for both of them. Hasn't been the case around here. I think it's about 50% currently if we start thinking about it, if we start looking at it. Meaning that it's less important than it otherwise might be. Of course, still want to get the entry. It's a big advantage to have. But now, you find Furia around the way from locking in their first map. And by the way that this match has been going, like, it could have been Raza already being on this point. Maybe even already have confirmed the entire game. Furia at the same time as well. KZ has been pulling numbers throughout this game. And he found himself back onto the board after a couple of rounds of running drive. Found 2. Instantly see that the rest of Furia are able to work on the back of that. And map point is now upon us. Get the bathroom tellers. This was a rush, and it failed miserably for the side of Furia.
Yeah, it didn't quite have its sort of netted connection with anything really going on. They threw themselves in. They got themselves attempted to be locked out, and said before as well, just going over the STK numbers, the only series that he ended up with at least a +1. He's hit flat 0 in some of the ones against like PSG Talon, and, where the team has generally played quite strong, was against Virtus Pro. First time he got up to +2. So, you know, if you're sort of highlighting growth, that is probably the most visual, that his first decidedly positive KD across the series was then. And here, you know, he's just grown in confidence, grown in competition. It's great to see. Players that start off on the sort of -7s, -5s throughout the tournament, get themselves more locked in. Though that kill game is still KZ's to control at a 2.0. It's a sneaky bit of pressure that gets punished. SDK caught out by JV92. They're laying traps and executing them perfectly. There goes Perez as well. And here, have they just run out of time? Live! Decapitated by Herds, and Flastry removes him from existence in response. Basetto's being called out on a drone. Isn't going to opt for the hatch rotate yet. Still 2 minutes. They need to try and contest this. If they can get one on a fadeaway, it's huge. And well, you can see that Peseto's just trying to weigh up his options, but they're around him, they're behind him, and it doesn't really matter. Flastry's been able to come up and get some support in here, a 3 versus 2, but it is just Flastry left. He has had some huge clutches for Razah on their drive towards this series, drive throughout this tournament, but Furia finally find an end to their map pick. Razah made them work for it though.
It definitely made him work for it, and for a long time, especially when that second half just started. It was looking like Razah Company could have been taking this border away from the side of Furia, but instead it's another 7-5. Just like the last time they played, it is history repeating itself as we go to 8-0 for maps now in terms of Furia. And well, Razah Company, you are going to bank, you're going to your own map, you got some performances there, but you do need to win now.
I mean, it's going to be pretty intense, and I'm curious to see what happens with the bank that we haven't seen yet from Furia, so let's go to a break.
Ouais, choc-les, choc-les, ouais, choc-les, 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 ouais, voilà ce qu'ils me disent, les entends parler et ils maîtrisent, j'arrête que pour rafler la mise, petit pas sur la piste, et le succès je l'ai pisté, disque la place du premier, fais monter la côté, sur moi tu mises gros, tu connais déjà l'équipe, ça criera au complot, je prends le double, on est quitté, je fais la magie des chiffres. La somme je la triple, la concurrence la dribble et le stade est en délire, ça fait choquer, j'arrive pour tous les choquer, toute la foule elle est choquée, j'espère que t'es accroché, gauche, droite, esquive rageux, coach m'a rajouté du temps de jeu, dans l'action ouais je me sens en feu, je suis on fire, je fais la différence au compteur, money time ça shoot sur le buzzer, je suis on fire, choqué, j'arrive pour tous les choquer, toute la foule elle est choquée, j'espère que t'es accroché, j'arrive pour tous les choquer, toute la foule elle est choquée, j'espère que t'es accroché.
There are many great players who are not champions, who have never lifted the hammer, who might never lift the hammer, and it's not because they aren't good enough, they just might not put in what it requires to really get there, because they are the goods and not the greats.
There is not 1 hour of the day where your mind can be off siege. You have to sacrifice everything to win.
If you were to win any event and call it quits, it would probably be the Six Invitational.
Chegar no topo uma vez, então assim foi um momento de muita emoção.
The Invitational is, the kind of the final checkpoint, the final test. It meant the world to me.
History will be made here because for the first time on home soil, a Brazilian team will win a world championship.
The only thing that matters is the 4 guys next to you, your coach, and the screen in front of you.
No one ever really just goes and wins. You have to go through the pain, the hardships.
Phase are exploding!
You have to go all in, that's it.
Quem perdeu foi nós tudo ali, e a gente que vai virar isso aqui agora.
Você tem que confiar muito no seu time.
Não vamos desistir.
When you truly want to become the best, you truly have to believe that you are, because you have to play it 100%.
Team Rainbow.
carries, Legion. Listen up. Hereford Base is now under our control. But we're not giving it up without a fight. Remember the mission, and do not let anyone stand in your way. Every action you take will be the difference between victory and defeat.
What a way to start it up. Well, it was almost an upstart there. Raza, they didn't have the quickest and cleanest approach from a sort of back and forth opening half that ended in a 4-2 for Furia, but then they got onto their defense, and then we started to get a little bit curious, Raza. They were taking control. They built themselves up over 3 rounds to a flawless defense round at the end, but after a team talk and a timeout, Furia remembered Furia's ways. The team started to operate on a more team-based dynamic, and they were able to clutch it out 7-5.
I wonder what the talk is like. Hey, guys, KZ's not the only one who's supposed to make kills here. Like, it's a team game. Like, let's all just start firing on those cylinders. And suddenly, everybody was going, and the rounds just started flowing back towards Furia's hands. They get themselves that victory, and it doesn't matter how scrappy it is. That map one, that's been taken care of. That round difference doesn't matter for anything. Just that one that counts right now.
That's it. That's that one. That's that point, and that's that moment here. Obviously, we're talking about how these two teams know each other, and the fact that that was obviously Furia's map plays into that as an engagement, but from how things have split, you look at, say, the first upper bracket game they had against Shopify, Raza won the first map, lost the second map. You look at how they got themselves in against Virtus Pro, they lost the first map, but then they came back on Bank to win it out. And here we go, back towards Bank, but that was an overtime game. There was a full stretched and stressed game here, and Furia have the recent sort of ability to have watched those videos and gone, okay, they were this close to losing, here is the key to making it our win.
Yeah, there's been, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4 plays for the side of Raza Company on this map throughout this tournament. And funny stat as well, you know, they've played each other a lot. There's only 3 maps they haven't played against one another. One of them is Banky, the other the permaband that Furia carries. So, yeah, I mean, Furia is definitely probably going to be quite happy to play Bank finally. As we mentioned, they left it up as a decider 3 times out of their 5 games that they've played. Just never really needed it.
No, and that sort of turns us in towards, I guess, unknown territory, right? Because, you know, you have off seasons, you have knowledge, you have scrims, and you have prep. And when you come in as a sort of tournament favorite, when you come in as a name to be beat, you come in as the reigning champions, people are gonna work pretty hard to try and counter-strike and counterplay. So they'll bring new parts of their Bank play. They'll bring new ways. As I said, it was part of the sort of massive series last year in the final. And yeah, obviously the game, the operators, massive amounts has changed since then, but it's still always that asterisk of this was one of our crowning moments. Let's make sure it stays that way for as long as possible. This could be them getting themselves off to a strong Bank start here, and Furia. This could be them confirming themselves for the upper bracket final.
Yeah, if they win this, confirm top 3 again at Six Invitational. That's massive. I mean, if you remember, before they won aside, they got second the year beforehand. So there's just something about this roster, you know, that is
something
just gonna
kind of
keep them
magic.
always there. There's some magic out there. I'm excited to see if they make it or not.
So another 2 shields gone. Blackbeard, yep, but this time the Monty has swapped out for the Blitz instead. Blitz had a bit of a run round from Furia in the latter half of their attacks. They struggled at the beginning, and then, as I said before, you know, you can sort of operate and utilize a shield on border if you're trying to get those direct drives, and I think from that point onwards, they were trying to get themselves a bit more comfortable, and they moved away from it anyway. So I guess it's the comfort of shields in the current meta. Right? It's not that it's the biggest draw for their play. It's not that it's the biggest sort of driving factor of them. They sort of dropped it once and then didn't work with it and then pulled away. But hey, what do we know?
I am excited about the defensive bans, though. First of all, Cade, I mean, that's a bit vanilla, you know? Like that often gets banned, right? Cade is one of those operators, especially with hatches, when they're very prevalent, you want to get rid of them. The one that is the spicy one, though, that's Smoke. Smoke is an operator that we've seen on so many, especially lockers holds, where they have been absolutely crucial. And Smoke have been crucial to hold on for this side ever since Bank released. We're just seeing it play. So, with that, you've basically bought yourself 45 seconds already when you're trying to play on that defense. However, we do see Furia are instantly trying to make a nice little adaptation because the Chunka is being brought out. 20 Shumikas. Gonna waste a lot of time as well.
I mean, you bounce them around. It's sort of the response. It was, I think, BDS that brought that first, at least to my EUL-driven eyes, where LMs would...
It was the super long lineup.
The super long lineup from the back. You just play it the same way you play the sort of Smoke before. And Smoke, it's their 3rd ban throughout this tournament.
Yeah, it doesn't get banned often.
It's not the one. And to be honest, this is
a mirror window that's on the wall. Yeah, okay. So that's just to make the breach harder.
Yeah, it means
exterior breach.
You can sort of problematically play against the breach, and it's awkward to get in. But yeah, it's probably one of the most sort of synonymous places with Smoke to play at. Everybody plays with it, so it's also not the one where you'd lean into the ban first, unless you're playing a specific game, which Raza wished to play here. They start their drone game out, and they start their apparent clear of empty space. Perez is sort of being droned ahead by himself. Now, there is somebody down bottom white, but Epox, he's not giving them the fight. There's the chance at JV92 finding an escape through the hatch. He's not under a huge amount of pressure right now, and they're just taking their time with it.
They have plenty of time as well, and as Deimos is being brought as well, Mirror being hunted, but, you know, they're just going to be on the site. This is probably the information they'll find. There's actually no one really out on the roam, so what can you do then? You can start opening up those hatches. A minute 15 has passed, you already see them in open area, you already see them taking lobby, and a bit of pressure coming down on the main stairs as well, as Hebana's opening up the last few hatches. The big worry is coming in from the side of blue stairs. That was KZ, just quickly shows himself for just a second. 18 kills in that final map. He's definitely looking to add to his tally, because, well, if he wants to have a shot at breaking his own record, he's going to have to start putting down the numbers.
Oh, Visetto gets the cut across KZ here and gets that opening take on towards the defense. They're obviously still playing their full back, but a minute 10 and they can start trying to clear some of this built-up utility. And what is there? Well, not really a lot. C-Force, the Shimmick launcher, there's no Goyo canisters, there's none of that pressure that's coming through, so instead they have to do this. Force the players away from being able to swing with the Shumika, with the C4, and try and make something happen on the back of it. That grenade doesn't really get anything outside of a bit of damage, and the Keeper will give them a little pocket of safety, but as the breach starts to come together, they're just going to try and back their way in. Now, all the pressure is going to be on Nade's shoulder as the fire starts to come across. The Candelas drop their way to 40 seconds, and here's about to be the role of the Sense Gadget. The ROU says, you nothing, covers the distance, and maybe try and go for a sneaky plant on the side of the chassis. They're spraying through, and they're actually just in the middle. The C4 is perfect, though. Played it safe, the fire was there, and it was a good idea from Razah to try and move against expectation, but it has unfortunately fallen a bit short. 15 seconds, has to recollect the gadget, hit the mirror window, go close. There's another spray around the side, but a trade out. The body balance is in their favor. They've just got to try and play this time perfectly. There's the lockdown, and the hold works out.
When there's something about those ROUs, it's the same thing as smoke. As soon as you use it, you know that there's going to be a push happening, and it's either going to be on the default spot, but there was going to be Shumikas consistently launched there.
Yep.
So the other option will be right next to the bomb chassis, the nitro cell when there, confirm the kill. That's just game sense there on the side of Fury. That's that bit of experience because they realized they couldn't be on the other side. Let's just throw in the explosion in the middle of the room, and we would wipe out anybody out there. And that secures in that first round, even though they lost the entry, still finding themselves with that round. And I think that's kind of part of play. If you go towards that basement, it's okay if you lose the first, because it is such a hard side to attack that even in a 4v5, sometimes even a 3v5, you still have a very good chance of winning it on defense.
I threw my eyes back towards, well, only really Razah companies playing of bank across this tournament so far, because we don't have the data from Furia, and funnily enough, Smoke has played 60% of their defensive rounds. They picked it 15 of 25 times against it, and it's, their third most popular operator technically, as Army was there for 5 of 7, otherwise banned entirely, so put her to a side. Second to Ace. So it's a bit of a risk here, Raza. I think they're sort of saying, look, you've done all this prep on how we play with Smoke, on how we play with this operator, and we've removed it. Hoping to, when we get to the second half of this game, more than just restrict Furia, change their play style up. And I'm curious to see what else they sort of develop and bring with it. Furia has been immediate to adapt to the Shumika launcher.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, right, if you ban it because you want to play something else yourself, then that's kind of a poor reason. And the thing is, it is being played by 60% because everybody's playing it.
No, but this is specifically their number. And this is them saying, look, you've prepped for our game this way. We take it out and take you out, KZ! Double down live in Basetto, found outside. Perez and Flastery fall immediately after by Felipox SDK. Comes off his drone, and all of his friends are dead.
Like the friend that logs in slightly too late for gaming night and everybody's gone. A flawless as KC drops a 3K and Felipox finds the other 2. Very convincing round coming down for Furia there. And I mean, that just comes down to the fact that there was no information. There was no drone. They had no clue that that was going to happen. I mean, the window jump out, you're always somewhat prepared for. You know it's this opportunity, especially when the side is those top floors. But there was nothing there to stop it. Finds 2 kills as a response as well.
I mean, we saw Claymores being placed. Obviously, this was, an execution of 2. I'm curious where the other 2 fell because, well, they're on the rappel.
On the rappel, yeah.
But we did see Claymores go down. They just found the window that...
He was just checking, but he wasn't, like, playing solo either, so he didn't know which window.
No, he just got lucky.
Just a gamble, right? Like
hot luck. 2-0.
Yeah.
Furia. They get themselves up on a strong start and a round where your team can't even enter the building, Raza. There's probably one that you want to forget. If they aren't competitive here, I'm pretty confident in calling a timeout after this, because otherwise this could end up being a very quick trip to the bank. And unfortunately, they leave with a bit of paper that says, nope, you have nothing in your account. Please go to the lower bracket queue.
No credit line. Indeed.
Nothing to help.
I mean, that round, I think it can kind of write it off. I mean, there was a big mistake. She didn't have the intel on top square. KZ perfectly used that, found 2 kills, eventually 3rd for that. At that point, the round was already over. Like, of course, you can still fight it back, and rounds are being fought back. But, like, the strategy you had, that's thrown out of the window, quite literally when Felipox jumped in right afterwards as well. But, that's just it. So they have to reset here mentally, start working an open area. I mean, it is the tertiary site. You just mentioned it. If they don't win this here, then there's going to be a big problem for the side of Razah Company. So we're going to see them play at their best here. And it starts with that top floor control. You see it from the side of Kanto. They're trying to at least get a bit of a line of sight. Fluster is just going to do that. I think the wall's left soft, so could have even shut it out. Not that it matters, though. But it's just meant to basically make KZ's life a little bit harder as he's playing around the soda hallway. And as long as he cannot really go for any swing, then suddenly you can start putting pressure onto Janitor.
They have the pings and the players. They were missing intel last time, but well, it's a fight that they're both trying to lean into there. Obviously, for Leapbox on the Skoposh has the ability to drop down to wherever the secondary shell is, and that's sort of what they're trying to do here. It's, you know, try and fight us, try and find us. Oh, it's so far away. And that's a great position because if it goes untested, you can very quickly swing your way up blue. It's a known flank. But you can get there from the top immediately, KZ. Knew that a flash was coming and it heralds a fight, but it also heralds the movement in towards the site. They've found themselves nobody, and they're going to stick the plant itself, tucked around by the quad wall, waiting for an appearance of them, but Furia too little, too late. There's trade outs to drop down, but now suddenly it's 40 seconds, and it doesn't matter where the flank is. They've got two bodies. Perez and Basetto, all that's standing, and now just Basetto trying to lock it down as they creep their way through the middle of the side. He's doing his best, gets one. Gets the spraying cord out, though. A good and valiant drive is unfortunately met by a Furia reinvigorated and reapplying themselves. I said it before, probably going to have a timeout.
You have to at this point. I mean, they spotted a good opportunity there. They saw that the site was free to take. They took it. They planted. However, the retake just a little bit too strong there for the side of Furia. They just overwhelmed them with numbers, and indeed the timeout is there. Don't you love it when you're right in these kind of situations?
Yeah, well, I think it's from casting with Xanox. He's very good at predicting timeouts. I started referring to him as the timeout general. So I think it's a bit of just rubbed off on me. And it has been, obviously, there was the flawless round in the middle there. They had the kit. They just couldn't get out in time. They couldn't fight their way out. They didn't have an exit strategy. They had a good idea, and I think they're just getting a bit ahead of themselves here. They're sort of seeing opportunities, but they don't realize how much control they actually have. Furia said that, you know, how quick will they be to adapt? And yeah, it's an awkward one to fight back in because the walls were still solid. You have to take the route that they would take without anything opened, but they're also doing very well on their gun game. It was sort of criticism from the previous map of you've only really got one Furia player popping off in KZ, everybody else is negative. Here, I think all of them are currently positive.
I believe they were indeed, but we'll get confirmation in that in just a second.
Yeah, all of them. So, I mean, two of the players haven't died yet, Fleetbox and JV92. They are just screaming as a team right now, and yeah, it's showing what happens when a team of this caliber all get into the server. Whatever was missing on the first map, and whatever they did, the halftime oranges, they've come through.
There's no Twitch. No, there's no Twitch now. I was going to say, there's no Twitch. We're playing down below. There's Goya Pockets. There was a fuse for a second, but that's also been swapped out. I kind of want to say, like, are they going to try and use the fuse to get rid of the utility? But no, the Twitch is being brought in, so we're going back to, like, a kind of default game. This started off with a pretty big pick early on for the side of Raza, but afterwards they weren't quite able to actually get that plan down. Shumika was able to stall them for just long enough. Then they started using the ROUs, which aren't on the board now. They brought them Montaigne instead. But was blown up with a nitro cell because they realized on the side of Furia that if those ROUs are going down and there's a Shumika launcher in the default plant, well, there's only one other place where they can get that plant down, and they shut that down. Now, SDK has a drone on one of these players. I'm not quite sure which of these it are, but they know about one of these roamers, and they're going to try and hunt him down. Boss gets the kill, though. JP92 gets some support, finds one. There's a second. Gonna have to jump back out the window.
Surely they don't get a second kill here, and that is a shield panicking and holding hope now. Everything they can do from the cover of the windows, but look at the Furia players. 3 of them stepping in, 3 of them cutting them off at the pass. They're going a bit wider on towards the electrical box as well, and well, there needs to be something that comes through from the side of Raza here, because that Monty is now keyed in. There is a lifeline opened up. Basetto survives, and, well, so do the Furia players. They pull themselves back in. The trade out of the Twitch versus JV92 on those keybers. They've proven they can kill him, but they still need to go for the site clarification itself.
Had to love to see the response that you saw as soon as they realized, hey, there is someone inside of open area and they're pushing in. You instantly had someone rotating up the blue stairs, providing cover so no one else would be coming in from Janitor, allowing them to continue fighting that fight without having to be afraid someone else is pushing through. I love this, by the way. The Goyo pocket was put in the middle of it. They've just used 4x Kairos. It blew up. That's going to slow them down just a little bit more. I mean, is it the most efficient use of a Goyo? Probably not, but at least it slows them down another 20, 30 seconds.
Well, that's it. You think about how late some teams are, and you think about what the game is at the end of this. It's juggling a plant on a position that's going to be coated in fire. And that is the game that Nade is more than happy to. Still has 20 Shumikers. They will burn for the pocket full of seconds that they do, but if he's got a lineup here, it forces adaptation. Now, that's why Basetto has the Monty this time. Rather than go for the coverage, they're going to say, look, this is where we are. Try and stop us. They have, obviously, the Maestro bubbles, more Goyo canisters, and this is going to be, what, 30 seconds left, roughly, by the time they start to go for the end of this. The play, the destruction onto the mirror position. There's more time, there's more waste, there's more watch on towards the fight. On the hatch itself, Herds, aggressive position, but he wins it out. They lose Flastry. They lose any of that vertical cover. It is now a flat lateral push, and if Furia find out about this, which they do, they rotate their way up. Yep. It's being pinged, but what do? 20 seconds. You have to send somebody to go for it, but KZ beats them out, and now it is just Basetto left, and he is forced back and further away, as is their chance in this map. Furia, 4 rounds in a row.
I mean, again, like, the thing is, you can defend this with 4 or 3 people, and they're doing that here as well. You had the even trade over the top. They all fall back. They have so much utility left. You saw the Goyo pockets that were placed high. They couldn't get it from the hatch. That was one of the issues. They were pinging it. They're like, we have to get rid of this, but couldn't. That cost them 10, 15 seconds extra. JP92 with the perfect support there, by the way. Beautiful shot as well on the Montaigne. Coming around the corner, swinging, but not for long. And after that as well, you had the Evil Eyes that could pop it from a distance. They didn't even have to go for a swing themselves if they wanted to pop those Goyos, if they didn't have to. So it was only the first layer that was peeled, which was the first floor. The actual site itself still relatively untested. They get themselves inside, but that's it. It's not really like there's any true pressure that came down on those areas. Now we're headed back towards the top floor. And the biggest critique here was you had no clue someone was coming up top square. There was someone jumping out of the windows. I mean, there was Claymores, but you just chose the one that didn't have a Claymore on it. So are you going to double down on Claymores, first of all? And do you make sure that you have a drone in top square if you still want to go for a similar approach? Because the approach Raza Company wanted to go for is just not seen at all. Unknown. As Philippox hides themselves inside of Janitor.
At this point, what is going to stop the run of Furia? It's obviously not their map, but now with Raza utilizing their timeout and still being shut out so sort of convincingly here by Furia. And it's not that they're entirely doing the wrong decisions.
Yeah.
They're making good plays. They're still getting these positions, but this is what happens when the world champion team plays to the caliber. As I said it before, both these teams have played brilliantly throughout this tournament, but there's just the levels and levels and levels. They keep stepping up, and now they're going to have to find the strongest play that they've been able to muster. They're getting themselves the angles open. Kanto in the cutoff here on towards stock. They've got eyes on towards top square, and last time we had 3 kills out one window, 2 on the other, and you can see the caution being paid here. Now still 2 Claymores in pocket for Basetto, so I'm wondering what the sort of drive was, and where did that go?
There's no ADS.
Oh, there it is, down in the middle of the room. Yeah. It's so hard to see until you go in and see the lights on it now. It's like cat eyes on a road.
It's likely to get destroyed or something, but no, not the case. Our Zero Terrorists are going to be opening up into Janitor a bit more. Ooh. They have it. Now the line of sight is active. However, you still see a slither towards that window. So Herds is thankfully going to make use of that.
Now they start to work on the position on the side of the long dash. They get the castle window open and to rotate round underneath. How aware is Philippox? He's going to give the beeper audio away. And, oh, there's not a catch on him. You can see live. Super tempted the swing into that engagement, but they've secured underneath. That's the important part. So now there can't be a C4 that comes up from that position if they want to try and just go for a tuck plant on the side of the desk behind the light wall here. It's 45 seconds. The second one gets thrown out, and the third. They're truly going to play with that swing, and there's the swing covered, but cannot get the connection. JB92 and Nade both take a lot of damage. Vasetto with the kit drives his way up, and he just wants to tuck on that desk. As I said before, there's still pressure and a hold here. 25 seconds. If this doesn't land, the round will collapse for Raza. They have the first body. They have a second as well, as they're going for the retake round the back, but it is only Nade that gets one out before he's traded for Leapbox. All that is left. He's around the side of stock. He's got a long journey to make, and that was a great systematic control from Raza.
Furia got a bit impatient there. They started pushing back. They were losing bodies. So they started rotating through on the actual hallway, trying to get towards top square. However, there was still someone all the way in the back at top square. They were predicting that. They knew that they were going to lean back into the fight, so they were trying to manipulate the angles they had available to them. So by not rushing that plant when they had the side under control, when they had the ground floor under control, they basically let Furia do the work for them. Come towards them, basically run into their crossfires and get those kills. And thus they find themselves in a single round as they find it on their attack. And if they manage to get a 4-2 on the board, that would still be a pretty decent half for the side of Razah Company, even if you look at how the very first 4 went. So, Razah, can you lock it off here on open area? You got an opportunity last time. You went for a plant. You thought you had the opportunity. And then suddenly the retake came through. And Furia was able to lock it out still.
Furia. Can they push themselves on to that 5-1 half? Can they set themselves up with an easier second swing? As I said, the questions around the smoke ban were more of Razah's defenses than of Furia, because it was their second top preference total defensive operator. So they might have set themselves up with a tricky sort of bait and play here. It depends. And all those depends will be solved on the other end, but I'm sure they'll probably prefer to have 2 extra splits coming into this. Their bank, they were on a 48% attack win rate, so just shy of 50. They're already stressed and miles away. They were a 60% defensive round win as well, which is actually lower than their generic average for defense. And yeah, it's bank, it plays into aggressive teams, but at the same time, you know, they're probably wishing they could lean on their great defensive stat before STK. Caught out by JB92, and there's KZ finding Perez. Just proposing positions, giving statements, flashes, movement, and then, oh no, Furia wants the fight. Furia steps in time and time again. Here either side. Now KZ is caught from the man on the long rappel, but there's only so much that they can offer. There's only so much that they can give. They have one person inside. The other 2 Raza players, I believe, are on different window rappels, trying to get a pinch. Basetto is in tricky situation if Furia realize, and there's the swing that Hertz gets locked in. Live finally makes a way in. The other players on the roof right now. Oh no, they're not. They're dead.
A statement round coming out from the side of Furia. They were thinking that they had control of that top floor, the flashbangs and everything pushing in, and suddenly 2 Furia players pop up. Boom, you've lost them. And as soon as you lost that very third fight on side of Soda hallway, that round's just over. The control you've had is gone. And Furia, very dominating first half. Now going over to the attack. And Raza, you decided to ban smoke. Now you gotta show what your plan is to play without him, because you're headed towards that basement. I do not see a Tachanka coming through. This is a castle, I see. I see a Fenrir.
This gives me the idea of a tall hold.
Yeah, they should be going up top. Probably an open area hold.
My worry here, which is actually something that's going to be punished by the lineup already, is if you are trying to do this kind of hold, power positions need to be powerful, right? You know, you need to sort of have the Warden playing on towards blue. You need to sort of have, you know, maybe even in some cases, a Jaeger with a shotgun, just
like
something that can buy yourself one bit of safety. Because if a team like Furia sees that they can have not only a disillusion of your vision, but then an execute behind it, they're going to take it. And then they've got the Glaz that was always in their sort of lineup and their read-through here. They've swapped on towards the Twitch, but there's no Goyo either. There's
no stall.
No. And, you know, on this side, it's a risk. I'm taking a wider pool here for Furia's case. This is the bank that they've played over the past 180 days. Obviously not played in this tournament yet. But their attack win percent is higher than their defense win, 58%.
Just checked with the IQ. They saw the F-nets are there. KZ's going to start putting out some pressure inside of the garage. Now, Flestry is out there. He's just giving away some of the information, shooting through the windows. Double smoke are going to be tossed in. The Glass instantly going to be digging deep. He's going to go prone probably, see if he can find the head. There you go. Oh, but he's feared by the F-Nat. That's going to make things a bit awkward. But still wins out the fight. And that's crucial. Now they have to start rotating back.
Now he's looking for a second engagement here. He's trying to just find the cover and find the man behind them. And SDK, he's been able to step himself up on the previous map and in the previous games. But KZ, he's still on the tear he had before. He's 9-3 and he's thirsty for the double digits here live. He's trying to find a route out. They do find Hertz. They get themselves a lifeline. They get themselves level. And now that gives them a bit of an option to, well, maybe instead of trying to fight a Glaz in the tricky terrain, let's push elsewhere. Let's find a fight on other players.
Also, rotate coming in from the side of Furia, though. I think they just realized that they are going for that tall hold. There's one or two, maybe on the site itself. Nade is looking for some verticality. He's going to be opening up some of these hatches. Is aware of the fact that someone could be coming up blue at any time. Also aware of someone inside of the archives, it seems, as he's creeping himself around slowly. Perez is in a perfect position to not be spotted, but he sees the shadow. The shadow is giving away the game. So they should be aware of the fact that he's there. Yeah, it's being pinged. So they know he's inside of archives. It's just that blue stairs is a bit of an issue. Smoke grenade will be used to cover that off. They're going to see if they can try and isolate Perez.
There's the cut across. There's the fight. Nade tears Perez's head off. 50 seconds, and the tool hold is starting to shake, starting to quiver. And with STK getting KZ, well, importantly, they win out the back of this approach. Now it's going to have to be very direct here from Furia. They don't have the Glaz to sort of operate and picking them as they flee. They've got some space to play around with. At this point, though, how are they going to try and drop into the engagement? You know, the goo mines, the Fenrirs might be able to slow some of this approach, but as we've seen, a lot of that is actually displayed and baited across the top two stories here. 20 seconds, and it's just going to turn into a drop and a fight. And, well, they're eyeing up the soft hatch on the vault, and Live is below it. Gets... Oh! Can't find either. Nade had the cover, but 9 seconds. And all they have to do is hide, wait, and bait. Will they even make it to the site in time? SDK can't get the down on one, but two! And he runs around SDK! What a performer he has been for Raza in the upper bracket run.
He's definitely one of those big players right now on the team that's winning them rounds. And what could potentially keep them in the tournament as well. Otherwise, we would have been a map and series point. 5-2. I mean, Furia, they had a lot going for them. They realized who two of those players were, isolated them as well. The Glass sadly winning out on the second fight after winning the very first. And Perez there, probably not fully aware that the shadow gave away the game. The Furia just running out of time, maybe a bit confused. Took too long dealing with the tall hold, even though Razah company had already fallen back at that point. And now we go up top, we go towards what often turns into a bit of a scrap at the windows. And a bit of scrap on stock. See that a Montaigne is being brought out currently by the side of Philopox. You gotta wonder, how is Raza gonna be approaching this? Because if we're being honest, that round was more in Furia's control for a long and big part of it than it was in Raza's. It was just that I think maybe Furia was a bit confused by the actual hold. It took a very long time before they started, you know, figuring out the pieces. When there was 30 seconds left, they were still opening up walls to areas that were like, do you really need to take this under control now? As Hertz, it was about a player who's going to try and go for a challenge. There's the Claymores.
Yeah, they have their preparation done. They have their coverage. I mean, it's what Bank does, right? It's how you sort of get yourself set up. The split there. After utilization of the utility, covers both windows.
Yep.
But this engagement, this start towards it, you can see JV92 is just utilizing the intel from his teammates. The control on towards the mirror window that looks on towards stock, and well, at this point, the other one's still in pocket. Perez has it, and there's an adaptation. Probably going to go towards Janitor. They just want to juggle utility first. They want to sort of say, look, you don't know where the other one is. But as Perez steps in, removes Herds, removes the Ash, and that mirror window, feeling very comfortable. You obviously still have some bits of utility that can smash them from range, but getting rid of Ash is probably very, very nice for their chances. There's STK holding on, moving back. The break on the windows itself, the gates are gone. But if they take too long, it's an easy reset for the players in the site.
And that's it. It's just a single bullet after 30 seconds, and those gates will activate again. They're going to have to take their time here, but make sure that they're not waiting for too long. A slight rotation coming through. Live finding himself next to the stock wall. I mean, they've just managed to take out one of the players outside that window, so the pressure's definitely lifted a little bit. With 2 still on rappel, JV92 going all the way through the tunnels, probably going to be putting the pressure down onto the square side of the map. And if you go, maybe vertical actually. No, still debating. Let's see if we can get a long angle instead.
You can see Raza complimented this growth of their play before, of knowing when to hold them and when to fold them and when to try and shoot your opponents. They're playing this cautiously. There's 30 seconds. They know time and the body count is on their side. They have to be reactive. But that jiggle, that fight, that approach live on the door, he's sort of making his presence known and not suffering on it. Flashtree gets KZ. They're pulled into the engagement. The impact does a bit of damage, but they cannot find the route through. The mirror window gives some of the game. There's one for JV92. There's the trade out, but they're locked down, and again, a handful of seconds. The long watch from Furia nets a reward. They're able to get themselves in, but what else can you do for Leapox? Nothing, because it's just not given to you. Raza, 2 in a row. Now only 2 between them and Furia.
Looking to close that gap, and they're slowly starting to get there. The initial pick of finding the Ash, absolutely huge. I'm not sure if they had any information or if it was just a I feel like spraying through this wall right now kind of feeling. But they found the Ash by that matter. The mirror window was going to be a lot more secure afterwards. They kept it in pocket as well because you want to bait out that first piece of utility that they usually throw in. As now the timeout is being called by Furia. I have the opportunity to have a nice chat about what is going wrong on this site so far.
I think that's it, right? You know,
so having the pieces is just too slow.
Yeah, they're struggling to sort of get themselves propped up against it. They're getting the reads on it. They needed this conversation before when they're on the previous map, and they're able to bounce back from it of just how to keep everything in towards their favor, how to keep that sort of confidence that they built up to previously. I'm not going to say cautious on their approaches, but the positions that they're trying to take in, they're not able to force Razah out of them. And you can see they're locking these rounds up. As I said before, when it was a 5-1 and the sort of timeout long since used, there was fear. Not for Razah.
Just to keep themselves in it. After the first half, it could have been over in 2 rounds, but instead they found both. Open area is going to be next before we continue the new rotation. And that's where my true questions start to come in. When we go back towards that basement site, okay, now they know. It's all hold was probably what they're going to go for. Is there going to be a bypass coming through? You know, how are they going to be approaching these sites that they've already played? But first, Furia trying to put themselves into a map point and a series point, most importantly. Put themselves at a top 3 position for the entire Six Invitational. Because that's what's on the line for this match.
Now, eyes on towards open, and if there is a site where they enjoy attacking it, statistically, recently, Furia, it's this. Over the past 180 days, from the, I think it's 6 attacks, they have won every single one. And they want to try and keep that tradition. In fact, I think it was the last SI was when they last lost an attack on towards this site. Now, there is obviously Basetto in the core of the site itself. The hold that's dancing itself with some of the protections around server, around archives gone. They've pulled themselves back towards archives and even further, actually, as Nade has screamed his way up via servers towards the top of blue. They are entirely brute forcing the corner of this, and it's going to come down to the Keepers and Perez to try and stop it happening. Basetto gets blinded out, can't quite shoot it in time. You can see all of the Raza players getting themselves closer and closer. The long angle from stock down through the hatch. They're trying to watch it, and that's what JV92 is trying to force them off because they have the verticality. Flashtree, an important fight to win out here, and he's getting some support as well. Great reactivity towards what they know they need to protect.
Minute 30, but the pressure is definitely coming on, and that Montaigne could be a driving force. Just to slowly start putting the pressure on to the kitchen. You can start walking through that double door. Suddenly, the people that are playing inside are not going to feel as safe as they otherwise would. That keeper barrier is going to be absolutely huge, though. They need to get rid of that. They need to get rid of that player behind. But Perez, once again, finding himself in the archives. This time, his shadow hasn't given away yet.
They're concerned about a rotate underneath, and KZ gets the first. And now, well, he's caught that rotate, and he's going to try and catch the players itself. A minute. They have that opening body. They have their second, and they're throwing themselves in towards the back. Basetto gets one. There goes SDK. Live finds one, and Perez fights his way back in, but can't get the corner, can't get it. And Live has a choice, as an option, and he's opted to unfortunately find himself in the middle of an engagement. JV knew he was coming, and what might now come next is a series point here for Furia and a confirmation of a top 3 finish and an upper bracket final.
Of course, as soon as they won the previous Six Invitational, it was an emotional moment, especially considering a brother was on the other side. Of course, that was for just mainly one of the players on Furia, but all of them are friends. And now finding themselves at an opportunity to get themselves back in a top 3 position at the upper bracket final, a game away from having another final, because their year hasn't been that great ever since they've won Six Invitational. But all of that can be written off as soon as they find themselves in that final again. That's just all gone after that. And as 6-3 hits and we go back towards the basement, there is this time stall. It's not going to be a tall hold. We have the Goyo, we have the Tachanka, we have the Mira. Alongside with another C4 that SDK will be able to bring in a Valkyrie. I'm wondering if Perez is actually playing the M870.
It was exactly what I said they need to do, right? And, you know, it's always nice you get this justification of saying, look, if you're going to do this, you have to have the confidence of the lock-in here. Everything I listed of sort of having the Goyo, having the Tachanka, if you're playing without the smoke. Now, it's the 416, and it's still a great gun in the right hands. Not quite as good as it's been once upon a time when Igarash mains plagued us in the early years, but still, it gives you the chance in the ADSs as well, in the sort of situation of drawing them in towards blue. Now, they're bringing the shield. They're bringing a plant around the server side, or at least the idea of. It's very rare for a Monty to really be able to go anywhere else, which means that you give them the direct, and yeah, you can try and throw yourself into different fights here, but Philippox, he's got the cover of herds. They have a route on towards the cutoff here of white.
They're instantly forcing them off because they realized last time they ran out of time, they couldn't quite force them back. Now they're using the Monty as a shepherding tool. Force them back towards the side, and look at that, you have 2 minutes left. You now have the opportunity to start working on open area. The big worry, of course, is someone rotating back up as SDK taking loads of damage through that window. The Montaigne coming around the corner is going to be reason enough for SDK to fall back. And now this is under control of the side of Furia. They can start working on the side itself right now and can start thinking about getting that plan down at some point. Basetto and Live, those are the 2 players to watch, though. They're holding off the staircase. They have the opportunity to go aggressive and go back up, most importantly.
Well, the Goyo canister pops its way on towards blue, but they've fallen their way back, and now they still have the reverse mirror window placed on towards the wall of the site to slow it down. The pings on the players on the back end, but, you know, if they're not forced out and you're not paying keen enough attention, and they're a good enough shot, they'll be able to close you down. KZ goes for the drop, and The removal there, pinged out by Herd, the IQ, making sure that there's nothing that's going to surprise them. And as it bounced around, this break, this play against it, the slow of the breach will be cornered out.
No.
It's an awkward one, though, and that's what that mirror window does.
Very tricky indeed, and that is probably still going to be enough for Philippox to vault underneath with the second Selma that they've just used. But a full-on walk with the Montaigne shield is not going to be happening here. And 35 seconds are left. It's all or nothing now, Emmy, because this push could be the very last of this upper bracket game for Raza Company.
At this point, at this moment, with 30 seconds on the line, Furia, they're getting their coverage in. They're trying to blind it out, but the C4 is not linking its way through.
Fire.
They're downed, and it's a post-plant situation. Slipped away from Razako, slipping away steadily and steadily as they go for the rotate and the fire burns. But JV92, he knows what he has to do here. It is wait and it is bait. There's one. There's two! Flashtree, all that is left to keep Razako in the upper bracket, but they're all around him. They're experienced, they're locked in. Furia confirm themselves as our first upper bracket finalist at SI 2025. They are looking better and better and better. Will they look like the best? Well, they're trying to prove that as they are gearing up for their second hammer.
The World Champions do what was expected from them. They hadn't lost the map against a Raza Company yet this year, and they will not today either. Of course, Raza Company is still going to be in it here. They're going down towards that lower bracket. They've definitely played an amazing tournament so far, but they've just met one of their demons, one of their domestic demons. They weren't strong enough today to beat them, but maybe they will be on the revenge later in the tournament.
I mean, Raza are still playing a brilliant tournament, and, you know, they have more than earned their position on the live stage in the top 6. It's their first major knock. Coming from LCQs, coming in towards this, almost getting first seed in their group, and almost getting it here, but the journey had to end at some point, at least in the upper bracket, and you know they're going to rebuild in the lower. We'll go to a break to break that down.